Good day, my name is Ilse. I'm going to show you how to fill in our offer to purchase. I've chosen the sectional title version because there are extra fields which have to be looked at, and then I also chose the Western Cape one as an example, but you must make sure you use the correct one for your area. You can find these all on GMS. Just want to share the offer to purchase. There you are. So where it says agency, you put in Property.CoZa and then your agency name, where there's Unity, Infinity, Hoogland, Paramount, Prosper, whatever the case may be. It's Property.CoZa and then the name of your agency. File number you leave open, that's for the administration. Under Property Specialist, you fill in your name and cell phone number. If you are a candidate, your mentor has to put in her or his name next to yours with their cell phone numbers. As a candidate, you are only allowed to sign on the offer to purchase as a witness. You never sign as the agent because you are not full status. Your mentor has to sign off with you. When you get to the sellers, remember that your whole OTP basically starts with your listing. On your listing, when you did the listing, you did the lightstone that you must have readily available. When you do the OTP, you must have your Annexure A, which is your immovable property report that shows that the conditions report of your contract that as per the PP or RA's requirements. So make sure you have everything ready. So you should have done your Annexure A when you did the listing. Also about tenants, if there are rental contracts in place, you should have found that out when you did your listing, so you know whether it's going to be the rentals are going to continue, and if the buyer is an investor, it's very important to especially find out about the tenants. So you put your name and your surnames as it is on Lightstone, exactly like it is. If there are more than 2 sellers, you are allowed to add them in and just write the C annexure, name the annexure, and at the end then add it. Sometimes you have it as a whole consortium of 5 friends brought together, and all 5 names must be on the contract, but there's no space here, so you can put it at the end in an annexure. Also important to remember that to keep your contract neat and tidy without too many lines through it, put NA whenever there's a field that it's not applicable. So if, let's say, it was a legal entity that sold here, all the information will come down here, and over here then you will just put NA, 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 NA. Never leave blank openings. The only place you are allowed to on a sectional title contract is where it gets to exclusive use areas, and I'll get to that shortly. It's important to know that all the fields have to be filled in. On the purchaser's information you take directly from the ID books. It must be exactly as is on the ID books, not the nicknames. So take it, as I said, from the ID books, and also at this point, take a photograph of the IDs. Then you've got the part of your figure ready already for the figure documents. If it's a legal entity over here, and then you just put NA. If it's an individual capacity, husband and wife, put the information there, and NA here. Make sure that when they put their names in here, that if it's husband and wife, every name that's in here must be the same as the names that's going to be on the bond application. You cannot have husband and wife here and then the husband says he's only applying. Whatever's on here must also reflect on your bond application. But the whole marital story is also in a different session. Property description taken directly from your Lightstone. I see there's something filled in here. You obviously just put your earth number here, scheme number, and door number and section number. In some of the older complexes, the door number and section number aren't the same. we find that in some blocks of flats, for instance, Sunnyside, that the door and the section number isn't the same. The newer complexes are normally the same, but make sure it's the same so that you don't have a mistake here. The name of the complex, Villa Bain, or whatever the case might be. Municipality, make sure it's the right municipality as per Lightstone. The size here, the size will be different from your unit to your from your sectional title to your full title contract. On your sectional title contract, this is the size of your unit, and you also must put it in words here. On your full title contracts, this will be the size of your land as per Lightstone, which you put in then in figures as well as in words. This is the part that I spoke to you about, that's the exclusive use area. When you do your listing, if the owner doesn't know, you can either ask somebody to do a deed search for you, or you can leave it open and the attorneys will have a look what the exclusive use areas are when they receive the offer to purchase. The garages, make sure that you know whether the garage is included or not. Sometimes the garages are on sectional titles. So when you do your listing, make sure that you put the ID number in to make sure to see if there's or any other properties on the owner's names. Sometimes if it's 18 or 36 square meters, you'll find that it would be the garage. Make sure make sure that you know whether it's a extra title deed or whether it falls under the same one as the unit. Physical address. It's important here to know that this is your subject property. This is not the address of the buyer or the seller where they live. This is the property that you are selling. We put the physical address, that means the street address. Unit 2, Villa Bain, Langendorf Park Street, Bloemfontein, for instance. Purchase price. Your purchase price is your marketing price, of which and the amount that the purchaser is offering, inclusive of commission. Seller pays our commission. So on purchase price, I'm going to take an example of 1.1 million. So you're going to put it there in figures, and then over here you're going to put it in words. Another point that I often find the agents aren't certain about is whether they must put exclusive VAT or inclusive of VAT. Now, if it's a normal run-of-the-mill transaction, normal buyer buying from a normal seller, individual capacities, it's normally inclusive of VAT. If the seller is VAT registered, which you should have found out on your listing as well, it would be exclusive of VAT. For instance, a developer, a speculant, whatever the case may be, if it's exclusive of VAT, the seller's VAT number comes in there. You must remember, if it's exclusive of VAT, the VAT is actually payable over and above your purchase price. So it will be 1.1 million plus 15%. So make sure that you get this part correct. But normally the sellers, if they are VAT registered, will tell you, but make sure you ask that question as well. If you have a situation where the purchaser is VAT registered, it often can be a zero VAT transaction. If it's a going concern, and then the VAT number must be in here. Then it will be also exclusive of VAT. But this year actually depends on the property, how the property is registered. The deposit is only deposit if it's money that's readily available. It can't be money that's coming from the sale of another house, because that gets seen to in balance of sale, balance from proceeds of sale. So your deposit, let's say you on this 1.1 million transaction, your deposit is 100,000 rand. You write it here in figures, you write it in words, and when it's due. If it's in a 32 days investment account, for instance, please put it 34 days. Make time for the days that it will take from one bank to another for the transferring of the funds. The balance of the mortgage bond. Let's say there's no deposit. If there's no deposit, you put NA there. You don't just leave it open. If you do a line or a Z like some people do, once you do that, everybody must initial on the side. But I'm going to go with a scenario of 100,000 rand deposit. So the balance then is a million, which either has to go on a bond or paid cash or comes from the sale of another property. Whichever one it might be, fill it in and the rest you make NA. So let's say it's a bond, then this will be 1 million, and in words 1 million. If it's cash, you put that there. And if 1 million is going to come from a subject to property which is being sold, then that will come in here. The mortgage bond has to be filled in the date. Normally, in a normal scenario, if it's a normal salary paid person, then 30 days will suffice. There is a 10 days extension. If it is a person working for themselves, or a company, please make it longer. It takes a while for all the documents to be collected, and sometimes the time 30 days isn't enough. Nowadays, we get bond approvals very quickly. Within a week, we should have an answer if it's just a very straightforward application. But if it's a company or people working for themselves, it can become more involved. 1.6, 45 days, years full in already. That's when there's a mortgage loan for the guarantees. If it is a cash deal, it comes in there. That is if there is a deposit. The third one here is where no deposit is due. So the second one here is so many days after the deposit date. And the third one, the days after the contract date. So whichever one you fill in here, make sure that your days are counted on business days. In a contract like ours, for instance, all the days that are mentioned are business days, not calendar days. The transfer date, it normally says by when more or less you should have it transferred. Make sure you allow enough time. Rather take longer than shorter. Name of the especially 1.7, especially if it's a subject to, then you really have to allow enough time. Have a look at your timelines. Remember, it's part of your storybook. The attorney doesn't know if he doesn't know. The name of the attorney firm comes in here. The occupation date is important. If it's date of registration, just stick it there. If it is, for instance, a speculative buying a unit that's being rented out and he's going to be putting new tenants in, then you must put the date in there. It can't just be left open. The occupational rental always has to be filled in, even though they say on date of registration. On date of registration, anything can go wrong a week beforehand. The documents can be thrown out of the deeds office, whatever the case may be, and the attorneys still have to work out a pro rata amount then, should it go a day or 2 or 5 over. So make sure it's negotiated upfront so that you don't have a problem if should that happen. The attorneys actually require that we fill this in. You can't, if they both decided they will say no, then you say no. But you can't leave it open, and you can't say to be negotiated or to be announced. It's not accepted and makes it the transaction, the whole contract, null and void. So you can never say to be negotiated. 1.11, vacant occupation. Often find the agents don't know, or the people don't know exactly here. Vacant occupation doesn't mean the place must be vacant when you sell it. It's only vacant once the seller moves out and the new buyer moves in. So in a normal transaction where the seller moves out and the buyer moves in, you should put in vacant occupation here. And if there is a tenant that's going to carry on staying there, you put that there. And then, as I said, on your listing, you should have done this. So over there, it has to be filled in. You can't say to be announced, to be negotiated or whatever. It has to be filled in. At the bottom of your pages, remember your purchaser initials, your seller initial, the agent initials, and a witness. If you candidate agent, you initial under witness. If you full status under agent. If a candidate agent with initials under witness, the mentor must initial under the agent. The second property, also sometimes confused. It's confusing. It is the subject to property. So agent A is buying from agent B, but agent A still has to sell his property. So agent A's property comes in here, and the conditional say that by when will this property be sold. Now, there are different scenarios here. If the property has already been sold but not registered, it has to come in here in any event. If they have an offer to purchase on it and they're still waiting for a bond, you must have a look at the timeline when you fill it in here. And if it has not even been gone to the market, if it's just put on the market, normally take 3 months, 90 days. So if it's a brand new property that's going to the market, you must take a bit longer here. Important that you put in the managing agents over here also should have been done on your listing. Levy amount, very important that you put it there. If you are not exactly sure, put plus minus next to it, because otherwise I can hold you to the amount. So but try and make sure on your levy statements. Expiry date. This is for when the offer lapses. So you make the offer to purchase to your seller, and this is by the time that you must have signed. I normally tell agents to make it as short as possible, because the more people have time to decide, the more time they have to go and play it off with other agents, against other buyers. So make sure it's as short as possible, obviously depending on the availability of your seller. If the offer is much lower than your asking price, leave it a longer time. It gives you time to negotiate in between and make provision for a counter offer. Registered name, this is your company name, and then trading as Property.CoZa, influencer, Paramount, Hoogland, whatever the case may be. But this is your company name with a company registration number that comes in there. So that is basically the beginning of the filling in here. Remember, everything has to be initial at the bottom. I will do the clauses in another session. I just want to get to the next lot here. Fixtures and fittings should have also been done on your listing. Make sure that you can't just leave it open, tick everything that is relevant. And there's place for additional things as well. If anything that's excluded must come in here. If there is nothing excluded, put NA in 18.2 or draw a line with all the initials there. But just the NA, the top line here will suffice. 19.2, make sure that I know whether they are invasive species. If normally there's not, then NA here. Special conditions. Important that your wording in the special conditions are as clear and as simple as possible. You must here write, for instance, let's say there's a sliding door on the western side of your living area that is broken or has to be fixed. You must put in the sliding door on the western side of the living area has to be fixed by the seller before lodging and paid for by the seller. It's always important to write in by whom, by when, and who is paying for it. Because if you just say the sliding door has to be fixed, it's very vague. Who's paying for it? Nobody knows. Who's doing it? Nobody knows. And who, by when? Nobody knows. So it's very important that you're very clear as by whom, by when, and who's paying. And once you've written in whatever you have to write in at the end of it, right, just put NA so nobody can add anything to it afterwards. On page 9, it's important that you see there are two places where we need initials. This 22 is regarding the Poppy Act, so you must put in your purchaser, seller, and all your initials here twice. Over here, the purchaser must sign in full, witnessed by the candidate agent, if it's a candidate agent. Seller sign in full. The agent puts his information in here. His FFC number comes in here. Sales manager signs here, and the mentor agent. If it's a full status agent, they can also sign here. This is the lecture I spoke to you about in the beginning. It should have been done on your listing. So make sure that everything here is ticked, yes, no, or not applicable, and the purchaser actually has to initial next to each one. So you understand then why it's a good practice to have it ready for when you do your OTP, so you don't have to start running around looking for this afterwards. Anyway, sounds again. Annexure B is a very nice checklist for your documents that's needed. The S stands for seller, the P stands for purchaser. Just tick off what you have, but there's also a checklist for you as to what needs to be added as supporting documents and FICA. FICA declaration by purchaser is important to be filled in, and the seller as well. All the supporting documents here are mentioned again. This is important that the purchase price gets filled in here. This is our commission, and the gross the gross commission and the net and the balance to the purchase to the seller. So make sure that you have that filled in, that and that. If you don't know how to fill in that, please find out from your sales manager or me, so that you don't make a mistake. It's very embarrassing if agents don't know how to fill the VAT amount in. Sales number of the agent is important for fill in there. Annexure D is just your tick list for your certificates. As I said, in the Cape you have an entomologist certificate as well as a water plumbing certificate that has to be done. And Annexure E is your seller's information. Important here, very important, is just that you put the existing bond number. So the existing bond number of the current bond that they have on the house, so that the attorneys can ask for cancellation figures the moment they receive the offer to purchase. Every day that this file lies on the conveyancer's desk because he needs information is a day further to your commission. So make sure it is as complete as possible and that he has everything. Also, good practice on sectional title is to have your managing agent's rules and regulations, the complex rules ready and already initialed by the buyer. It saves a lot of time for the attorney. Next F is just contact details. It looks like duplications, but all these documents are needed for the different purposes. So that's the end of this. I will do the legal aspects in a different session or different sessions. So I hope this helped. Thank you. Goodbye.